The on button of my computer is not currently working. So I'm out of a PC right now, which as a YouTuber is kind of awkward, but luckily we're running on a laptop in a dream today. So look, today I did not want to delay the video because of my computer problems, because I noticed a lot of you during a couple of my previous videos where I talked about how much I love playing NPCs and how my players like my NPCs, blah, 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 blah. A few of you were telling me, hey, a lot of my players hate my NPCs. Whenever I like an NPC, my players always want to kill them. And look, I don't know the exact reason. Could be on you, could be on the players, but either way, not much I can do about the players. But you guys, you DMs out there, I do have some advice for you, because making likable NPCs in a lot of roleplay heavy games is going to be a big part of the gig. Knowing how to make characters that your players are going to enjoy and that you're going to enjoy playing, it's a balance. And for a lot of us, it's a hard one to strike. So today, we're going to be talking about how to make likable NPCs. NPCs that your players will hopefully be ride or die for, and on top of that, NPCs that you are going to enjoy playing. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so first off, a disclaimer. NPCs should never be the main characters of the story. Now, do not think that NPCs can't have important roles in the story or can't be relevant in any way, because that is a trap that I fell into. A trap that's going to cause you to never make a likable NPC ever, because if an NPC isn't notable in any way, why would your players take note of them and like them? You know what I mean? Even when minor characters pop up, those characters have personalities, and through those personalities, they take a little bit of spotlight. But don't let an NPC ever just completely steal it away. Don't let an NPC become the main character. Don't let an NPC solve all of the players' problems for them. NPCs are there to assist. They can take important roles in the story. They can be the Princess Zelda to your party's Link, but at the end of the day, the players are the one who solve the problem the DM creates. You are the problem creator, not the solution creator. And your solutions should not be characters that feel like they take away from the players. You know what I mean? Now, all of that is kind of obvious to a lot of you. We talk about a lot of RPG horror stories here, and DMPC main characters, well, they pop up a lot. So I'm sure you guys already know that. So let's move on to the first major part of creating likable NPCs. Know what your players like. What kind of characters do they enjoy? I'm lucky enough that I've always played with really good friends, so I know pretty well what kind of characters my players enjoy. They love characters who need help, for lack of a better word. They like being the knights in shining armor, dude. I mean, God, we play D&D. Who doesn't like doing that? Obviously, they like characters who are self-reliant, but at the same time, if a character needs help and the party is the one to give it to them, when the party can be their last hope, oh man, the party are going to be all over the NPC in a matter of seconds. It happened fairly recently. A character named Marin, who was introduced to my game as a simple ranger, is going to help them cross the mountains. She was meant to be just a guide. In fact, I made Marin's girlfriend first in my head, then made Marin after that. She was kind of a secondary character, but my players got really, really attached to her because they empathized with her plight. She's separated from her partner by hundreds, thousands of miles, and she needs to get back, and the party in that moment saw her need of aid and were like, hey, you're gonna help us get across the mountains, and then we're gonna help you. That's what my players love. They like helping people, and giving them people to help is going to give them characters that they like. Your players are going to be different, inevitably. Learn what your players love, what kind of characters they enjoy. This can be done through simple questionnaires. I mean, before every session, I try to ask my players in-character questions. Stuff like, what's your character's favorite food or favorite pet? Stuff like that. But there's nothing wrong with asking your players questions as well. Maybe during your session 0, you ask them straight up, hey, what kind of characters in fiction do you really, really love? What kind of tropes do you enjoy? And based on that, you can start creating characters or adjusting characters you've already created. We can talk about that later. Making likable characters is a writing art on its own, and one that even professionals can have problems with, so I'm not going to go over all of the nitty-gritty details. There are tons of writing advice videos that can go over how to make a character likable, but here, just one big lesson a lot of DMs make a mistake on: don't make a character too abrasive, especially on first contact. Making characters who are able to be vulnerable will generally attract your players a lot more than a character who's super closed off from day one. Even a character like Shadowheart in Baldur's Gate 3 is going to attract more people because even though she is closed off, there are signs of there being something deeper in her character. And with just a little bit of pushing, the players can quickly unravel what is eating at her deep down inside. Actually, I think Baldur's Gate 3 is a masterclass in showing you how to make likable characters from the get-go. I mean, seriously, even their unlikable characters, like Astarion or Shadowheart, characters who at first are very prickly, even they are just beloved by thousands of people. And again, all players are different. I'm not saying that if you follow that formula, you're going to be Preem, but those characters are a decent guideline. I mean, look at someone like Astarion, someone with a lot of charisma that just oozes personality, even if they're mean. I think that that is another good way to get a lot of players to really love your NPCs. Again, it's all subjective. Baldur's Gate 3, all this, they're just examples. Whatever your players like, focus in on that. Take general lessons and combine them with the specific information you get from your players so you can create really likable characters from the get-go. This is a lesson that came out of my third D&D campaign. A big reason why my players loved Marin so much, that ranger I mentioned earlier, is because they fought alongside her. Camaraderie is built through combat. Brothers in arms forged in battle, or whatever gender your character happens to be. Look, the point is that your characters will get so much more likable if they help the party in combat, or better yet, if you let the player characters control them. I learned this in my third campaign when I started doing this lesson in order to have my players actually have NPCs help them in combat. I hate, absolutely despise controlling NPCs in combat. It is my least favorite part of the game because my combats are pretty tightly intense. They've got a lot of tactics involved, and that means there's a lot of just stuff going through my head, and I just don't have the spare brain space to also be trying to help the players. I mean, I'm so stuck in the mentality of I'm trying to kill the players with all of these mechanics that when I have to switch over to helping the players, my brain just gets confused. I end up just like making a melee weapon attack or something. But if I give the players access to the NPCs, with veto power from me, of course, then it allows the players to have an extra tool in their toolkit. Marin is a cool character. She has the ability to dash and has the ability to give them some temporary hit points. I mean, she's not complicated by any means. She's not supposed to be. None of the NPCs that I make for my players are meant to be complicated. They have a melee attack, a ranged attack, and like 3 abilities, and that's it. Look, that's mechanics, but in terms of feeling, I mean, this gives the players a sense of unity with this character. I mean, they helped us in combat, and if they get to control the character, I don't know, it builds that sense of unity even more. I mean, seriously, I never expected Marin to be such a likable character, but after that combat, the players were really ride or die for her. Being able to control the character just made them feel more connected to her. And again, I had veto power. If they made her do something that's completely out of character, I can say no. But by that point, I had established Marin's character pretty well, so the players knew what she would do. It helps that what she would do is usually the exact same thing that they would do, so, you know. That's a nice bonus as well. If you want tips on how to get stat blocks for this sort of thing, MCDM's Flea Mortals, we're bringing it up again. Look, it's nothing I can do about it. It's a good book. Look, that book has a ton of retainer stat blocks. These are weak NPC allies that you can reskin easily to fit whatever character you need. I always explain the NPCs being super weak in combat by just saying, like, at this point, they're tired, or they've used up a lot of their resources by this point in the day, and therefore, they can't help the party to the full extent of their abilities. You don't need to do this, by the way. You can just have the NPC just be naturally weaker than the players. In fact, that might be the better approach. Though in my games, it's pretty well established, and my players are okay with this, that the NPCs are almost as strong as the player characters, though mechanically they need to be weaker just to keep the balance of combat intact. My players understand that. That, however, may not work in your game, so just use what explanation works best for your players. Look, in summary, I'm talking a lot about mechanics here, but I can't exaggerate enough. It's like a magic trick, okay? Having an NPC fight alongside the player characters feels so good. Having the NPC be controlled by the player characters, I mean, hey, depends on the person, but I think it might feel even better. Next up, and this is probably the most important tip on here, invest in the character. Look, so often I see the advice of, don't make an NPC relevant until the players express interest in them. And that is dumb advice. Why in the hell would your players care about a character that you haven't invested in? And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, give them a backstory. Give them a personality. At least fill out the traits, bonds, flaws, etc. thing for them. I mean, I wasn't doing that for so long, and after doing it, I find that it really helps to make characters feel fleshed out. Take Shadow over Carconos, for example. For a long time, Kalia Solfero is a character who existed in my home games, and in Shadow over Carconos, she became a very notable character. She was the main quest giver and had a lot of screen time. And when I was filling out her traits, bonds, and flaws, I finally felt like I was fleshing out this character. Most notably, I gave her a little quirk, a trait. She likes baking. This deadly assassin likes making pastries. It's a small thing, but investing in the character just that little bit and giving her that little quirk made her a much more likable and three-dimensional character to the players. Yeah, people have quirks, people have traits, people have weird things that kind of come out of nowhere. The deadly assassin who loves baking is something that is notable and is going to make the characters notice her a lot more than just some random quest giver. On top of that, I invested further in the time the character took up on screen. Kalia, talked to the party, both together as an entire group, but also one-on-one conversations with characters who were interested. Take that of note as well. Look at which players are interested in the character. I mean, ideally, all of them would have some interest, but there are always going to be some people who are really invested in the character more than others. Take, for example, in Shadow over Carconos, Jacob Crow through Masao Takeda talked to Kalia a lot. He sought her out for one-on-one conversations. And you know what? I noticed that and had Kalia reciprocate, and that built a bond of friendship between their characters. This also happens in Critical Role between Essek and Caleb in Campaign 2 of that show. And that interaction ended up blossoming into a romance, which obviously I've made tons of videos about romance. You can check them out in the cards if I remember. Probably won't. But the point is that, yeah, that kind of investment builds a better story. Now, of course, of note here, one-on-one conversations are a double-edged sword. You need to make sure the entire party is okay with them, and don't have them take up too much time. I tend to find that I get really paranoid in my head over one-on-one roleplay. I feel like it's taking up forever. Like, this is, oh my god, we've been roleplaying for like 30 minutes, when really it's been 5 to 10, which, by the way, I think is an okay length for a one-on-one roleplay conversation. Hey, speaking of one-on-one roleplay conversations, another miscellaneous tip, use your long rests for this. Parties are always taking night watch, and often it's just roll a perception check and move on. Besides random events where a frog comes up to the party or some wild animal is stalking them in the distance, have NPCs walk up to the players. Call them on the sending stone. Have opportunities for one-on-one conversations while the players are sitting there solitary during a long rest. I do this all the time. The NPCs are with the players. NPCs like Marin are accompanying the players on their journey, and therefore, Marin can actually, go up to the players during long rests and talk to them. And again, this makes her a much more three-dimensional character, giving her time to flesh out her personality, her motivations, and her connection with player characters. This is a lesson that Baldur's Gate 3 emulates very well, but a lesson that I really took away when I played Cyberpunk 2077. I was shocked by how little time I had with some of the characters, but the main reason I was shocked wasn't because I was mad or anything. It was because I really love these characters. Characters like Goro Takamura or Judy Alvarez or Song So Mi especially. These are characters I really love despite having shockingly little time with them. Again, I had so much less time with this cast than I did with the cast of Baldur's Gate 3, and it wasn't even close. So why did I like these characters just as much? Because of the one-on-one conversations and the depth of those conversations. I mean, every character I really, really invested in was a character that I had an intimate one-on-one with. And again, intimate does not mean romantic. That's obviously not what I'm referencing because, well, you guys know. But I'm talking about just conversations, talk about motivation, the meaning of life, stuff like that. I mean, this incredible interaction seeing in the background between Song So Mi and V, the main character. This conversation is 10 minutes long and brought me to tears. It's so well done. But at the end of the day, it's just character, topic. The characters being V and Song, and the topic being their backstories. That's it. Figure out the topic, figure out your 2 characters, and boom, I think you have a recipe for some real success. Okay, finally, let's talk about the elephant. What happens when your character isn't likable? What happens when you inevitably fail? Well, honestly, pat myself on the back, haven't failed yet. Every time I want my players to like a character, they've liked them. But someday in the future, someday in the near future maybe, I might fail. And what do you do then? Well, you either know when to cut your losses and be okay with this character being unlikable, maybe even leaning into that, or change the character. I mean, I talked to the players of Shadowheart because I didn't really know what to do if they hated Kalia. Like, if they hated Kalia, a lot of the premise of the one-shot short campaign kind of falls apart. And that was a major flaw on my part, by the way, as a dungeon master. But I told them about that flaw. I told them, hey, this NPC is kind of important. She's the main quest giver. If you despise her and want to kill her, can you tell me why so that we can change the character? Again, this is not going to work for everyone. Some players are just going to be straight up like, no way. If I want to kill a character, let me do it. But with me, I just talked to the players about it, and they said, yeah, of course. Luckily, that was not necessary. The players and the audience, apparently way more than I realized, liked Kalia a lot. And therefore, I didn't need to change her in any way. But I was ready to, just in case. Characters don't need to be perfect princesses, by the way. I mean, God, I just brought my favorite characters are Shadowheart and Song So Mi. I mean, there are 2 characters who are not perfect by any means. Deeply traumatized women with a lot of baggage. They're perfect examples of very imperfect characters being extremely likable to a lot of people. A lot of people are very devoted to both Shadowheart and Songbird. They're interesting and fascinating characters, but are they universally liked? Of course not. Just be aware of when you need to cut your losses or when you need to revise, and make sure to ask your players which of those options they're going to prefer. And at the end here, make sure that you're enjoying playing these characters too. Don't force yourself to build NPCs that you don't like playing. I mean, God, you're part of this equation as well. It's not just the players. I love playing super awesome girl boss characters with scales. I've done it like 4 times. I like playing the mysterious femme fatale quest giver with tons of secrets. I've done that countless times. I like playing the gruff himbo orc who doesn't really know what's going on, but he's happy to be there anyway. I mean, God knows how many times I've played that character. I mean, once, but I want to do it again. The point is, my players know my tropes. I know my tropes, and we both love them. Reconcile those things in your own game. Figure out what things you like, what your players like, and make sure to take both into account. Okay, hopefully this is a guide and helps some of you guys to make more likable characters. It makes me so sad when I hear about DM who invested a lot of time into creating an NPC they really love, only for the party to just insta-whammy kill them. It just makes me kind of sad, considering how much fun I've had playing NPCs. But in any case, if you guys enjoyed, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of our content, then you can check out our Q&Play series, where we answer your questions in a rambly, unscripted format while playing some video games. It's linked in the cards. And while you're there, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own tips or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment likable to let me know you made it to the end of the video. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.